So hi everyone, welcome to the AC Discovery Tour of Ancient Greece. This is going to be a live stream going over the Acropolis of Athens, the Gods of Olympia, and we're going to end with the Olympic Games. And we're celebrating day 215 for this one. And with me, I have Joseph, who is a true member in AC Landmarks, team member. Uh, thing. So say hi, Joseph. How are you?
Hello, everyone.
Yeah, he is at Historian's uh, First, I think. Yeah, like Historian's Perspective on Twitter, and he's gonna help around and think research for Assassin's Creed topics that we're gonna put on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Basically, we're expanding. But yeah, let's start with the Acropolis of Athens uh, and talk to Aspasia over here.
Greetings, wanderer, and welcome to the Acropolis, the shining jewel
Yes,
of
let's get
Athens.
started.
My name is Aspasia. Though I am not originally from Athens, I have climbed to the top of its social ladder using my wit and intellect. I've even earned the love of Perikles, one of the most powerful men in the city. The mind truly is a beautiful thing. Personally, I think the Acropolis is one of, if not the, greatest place in all of Greece. Though, considering it was the project of my partner, Perikles, I may be a touch biased. The Acropolis of Athens is a bastion of art and culture worthy of the gods themselves. Within this citadel, you will find many important sacred buildings, as well as some of the most magnificent art in all of Greece. You are in for a very enlightening visit. When you're done, come find me, and we can discuss the things you have seen. Farewell for now.
Joseph, what are you seeing in front of you right now? Is Aspasia saying farewell for now?
Yes, I'm now walking to the next station.
Okay. The video might be
The
a
Acropolis
little
has gone through many changes in its
forward
long
in time, but
history.
we are
It began as a
There's
simple
always
rock,
going to be a delay
was
from
settled
what
as
I
early as
see
the
to what you
Neolithic
see.
period, and then became a fortress in the
Just
Mycenaean
that's it.
period.
It's
Stone
done that
buildings
way in
started
order for there to be
appearing in
less
the
lag.
7th
So I
century
think there's like a
BCE.
5-second
But the
delay or
famous
something like that.
structures whose ruins remain visible today date mainly from a period of construction in the 5th century BCE. The location of the Acropolis is closely tied with Athens' foundation myth. Supposedly, it was the site where Athena and Poseidon competed for the city's patronage. This connection gave the Acropolis a sacred aura, and it was considered the religious heart of the city.
So, we're going to the next one.
Yes, I'll just follow the routes as they are painted.
The Temple of Athena Nike was built on the remains of old fortifications from the Mycenaean era. Worship at the temple can be traced back to the 6th century BCE, but the building itself was destroyed during the Greco-Persian Wars a century later. It was rebuilt during the Peloponnesian War. Given that the name Athena Nike roughly means Athena of victory, it was likely constructed in the hopes that Athens would win the war. Unusually, the temple depicts historical scenes of battles against the Persians instead of the more mythologically inclined art of other Greek buildings. The temple's priestess was chosen randomly among the Athenians and received a salary of 50 drachmae annually, along with skins and trophies from sacrificed animals. The Akropolis was built up over a long period, due in no small part to its partial destruction during the Greco-Persian Wars. It was in the 5th century BCE, though, that the Akropolis received its most significant improvements. This period was an extremely prosperous time for Athens, both financially and culturally. With a booming economy bolstered by trade and the Lavrion silver mines, Perikles, the leader of Athens, financed a huge project to rebuild the citadel. He enlisted the help of renowned artists, like the sculptor Phidias, as well as the architects Iktinos and Callicrates. Together, they erected buildings like the Parthenon and the Propylaea Gateway. Pericles' goal was to make the Akropolis into a glorious monument to the gods and to mortal Athenians.
Here we have mention of Pericles quite a bit, as well as the Laurian silver mines. One aspect of the research I'm currently looking to do stems off of Thucydides' writings of the Plague of Athens, and one thing that came to mind is when Greek rituals for funeral arrangements, you would be given 2 drachmae to pay Chiron as a way to progress yourself through the underworld. And with the Laurian silver mines, I asked myself the question, since there was such a large population of Athens that's succumbed to the plague, Pericles included, were the silver mines and the actually how much silver they have heavily affected? Because if every Greek needed 2 coins to pay the ferryman, how would that have affected the silver surplus?
Perhaps we can research that.
That would require a deeper dive into Thucydides, as well as probably another source or 2.
Behind the Propylaea
I've yet to find
was
it.
the giant bronze statue of Athena
Promachos, there's
Promachos,
a lot of works
or
of
Athena who
around,
fights
so.
on the front lines. That name was reflected in the
Thucydides is primarily known as the author of the Peloponnesian War, which I have the textbook right here with me.
Phidias. According to an inscription, it took 9 years to make and cost almost $500,000.
I have been
drachmae.
translating the
At
original
approximately
Greek.
10
I
meters
haven't been
tall,
using the textbook
statue
itself.
was apparently so large that Pausanias
But there's
claimed
quite a
its
few
helmet
mentions of
and spear tip
Brasidas here,
could be seen from the sea near Cape Sunion,
including
60
his death,
kilometers
which I
away.
believe
The
is
ornamentation on the statue's
book
shield was engraved by the
8,
metalsmith Nice.
chapter 40, I believe so. I made a note of it yesterday.
Yeah.
But his the battle that Brasidas is killed is actually here as part of the Discovery Tour at the siege of Amphipolis.
The
Is the Battle of
were young girls between the ages of
Amphipolis
7 and 11
portrayed
who were
in
in charge of
Ancient
special rites. A list of
I
4
do
girls
not
was
believe
drafted
it's
by the
portrayed in
Assembly
the
of Citizens,
campaign, but I
from
believe
which
it is
High
on
Magistrate, the Archon Basileus,
the tour.
chose 2 to
Because
serve as
because he
Errhephoroi
does
for the
die.
year. The girls
Yes,
lived in a
he's
house
wounded and
near
succumbs to his
Phidias.
wound at the
They
Battle
were
of
in charge of
Amphipolis.
carrying sacred objects and weaving the peplos
Yeah.
of Athena.
Like
The peplos was a sacred
remember
robe
that about
offered to
Exotic.
Athena during Pentathlon, a festival held in her honor.
Very long.
Yes, I can show you here on the map. It's right here. Battle of Amphipolis. We can probably delve into that in a future live stream.
Oh, there we go. I see it. Yeah, maybe a future stream. Okay. I'm posting the stream on the Discord channels.
For people who are watching the stream, if you have questions about each one of the aspects of the tour we go over, make sure to put those on both the Discord as well as the Twitter, and we'll try and answer the questions as best we can.
The mythical
Or just
founder
ask
of
us over
Athens,
here.
his son Erechtheion,
In the
and
chat,
even Poseidon,
if you're viewing.
the sea god who
Yeah,
challenged
in the
Athena for
chat.
possession of the city. The temple
Any
was
questions and
divided
answers
into
we do not have,
sections.
I will try and
The
find
eastern
for you.
part housed a
Gotta
statue
say,
dedicated
this
to
is our
Athena,
first time live streaming,
while the
so
western
if it's a
section
bit
jointly
like
belonged to
scale
Poseidon
with
and
like
Erechtheion.
we're just trying to
Meanwhile,
get the
King
information
Kekrop's grave was believed to be
out
under
of
the
the.
caryatid
It's
porch.
just
Under
the
the
first
temple
time,
was a
and we're
crypt
learning
that was said
from
to
this
contain the
experience.
sacred snakes
So
of
yeah,
Athena. The snakes
bear
may have
with
had a
us.
sweet tooth because the priestesses of Athena allegedly fed them honey cakes.
Okay. What are we doing?
Into the next checkpoint. Checkpoint.
All right. So
The Parthenon is one of the most well-known buildings in the world and an enduring symbol of ancient
Did
Greek
it download on the
civilization. While it is located on the Akropolis,
The
the
Parthenon?
building is not a traditional temple. It was built by the sculptor Phidias and the architects Callicrates and Ictinus as a great monument to the glory of the city of Athens. That glory is evident in its many carvings. One of the most carved monuments in Greek
Joseph, make
architecture,
sure to
the
press
Parthenon's
on
decorations
X
depict
to learn
several
more,
mythological scenes.
so we can.
These include the birth of Athena, her fight against Poseidon for the patronage of
Okay.
Athens,
Can,
the gods' battle with the
think
giants, and the procession of the great
narrate
Panathenea.
the text, basically.
Parthenon was built and decorated between 447 and 432 BCE. So this would have been right during the height of the Peloponnesian War, which lasted from 431, or actually just before the Peloponnesian War, which lasted from 431 to 404. Turned into a Greek church dedicated to Virgin Mary in 590 under the Eastern Roman Empire. After the Fourth Crusade conquered Constantinople, or captured Constantinople in 1204, it became a Crusader duchy. It's interesting. Ottoman conquest of 1458 transformed the Parthenon once again into a mosque. In the Venetian siege on the Acropolis, cannonball struck the Parthenon.
There's a lot of Parthenon exterior research. It's amazing. Which paragraph are you on?
You want to read it all, or just the key bits?
Yeah. Let's read it all.
Okay, the Parthenon was built and decorated between 447 and 432 BCE, and the worship of Athena went on for nearly 1,000 years. Although the building was affected by the destruction caused by Germanic invaders in the 3rd century Common Era, in approximately 590 Common Era, it was turned into a Christian Greek church dedicated to Marina Parthenos, the Virgin Mary, and the new protector of Athens. The church became the 4th and most important pilgrimage destination in the Byzantine Empire after Constantinople, Ephesus, and Thessalonica. After the Latin soldiers of the Fourth Crusade captured Constantinople in 1204, Athens became a Crusader duchy for 2.5 centuries, and the Orthodox Church became the Catholic Cathedral of Our Lady. Do you want to say something?
Yeah. So the Ottoman conquest of 1458 transformed the Parthenon once again. This time it became an Islamic mosque. Although refurbishments and additions were made to the building throughout its many iterations, the continued Christian and Muslim activity in the Parthenon helped preserve the monument better than many other ancient structures. Unfortunately, in 1687 CE, during the Venetian siege of the Ottoman fortress on the Akropolis, a cannonball shot struck the Parthenon, which was being used to store gunpowder. The roof was blown apart, 3 walls were severely damaged, and several columns and fell to, or Meetups? I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway,
I believe it is Mitos.
okay, fell to the ground, as well as most of the sculptures on the pediments and the frieze. Dude, I hate it when people freaking destroy landmarks. Like, it's like, oh yeah, I'll shoot that. It doesn't matter to history at all. Like, screw off. Anyway, guys, if you're here, say hi. I think it can be lonely between the two of us, or we can just keep chatting.
The Parthenon's inner chamber, or cella, contained a massive statue of Athena that was considered to be one of the sculptor Phidias's greatest masterpieces. The statue was Chryselephantine, a combination of gold and ivory. To justify the steep cost of its construction, Perikles told Athenians that the statue was a gold reserve, which could be disassembled in times of economic distress. The cella also allegedly contained a pool, whose main purpose was to control the room's humidity, which helped preserve the statue's ivory.
Parthenon interior. Some researchers have hypothesized that the Parthenon statue of Athena cost almost as much as the building itself. Unfortunately, the statue was either destroyed by a fire or brought to Constantinople in late Roman times, where all traces of it were lost. Fortunately, descriptions from historians like Plutarch and Pausanias, as well as smaller copies like the marble Erechtheion statuette, allow for detailed reconstruction.
The goddess was armed with a triple-crested helmet featuring a sphinx and two griffins, a big circular shield in her left hand, and a spear. She held a winged Nike 2 meters tall in her right hand, while a huge sacred snake was coiled between her left foot and the shield, as portrayed in the game. She wore a typical Pelops robe tucked into a belt, and on her chest was a snake-bridged aegis displaying the head of Medusa. Today, a modern replica of the statue stands in a copy of the Parthenon in Nashville, Tennessee. By the way, you guys, I did make a Twitter thread about the Parthenon, and I covered Athena, Promachos, and Parthenos in it. Promachos is, I believe, the outside one, and like that outside big statue one, and then the Parthenos is the one inside the temple. I covered them both. So yeah, check it out at AC_landmarks on Twitter. Moving on.
The Parthenon's inner chamber, or cella, contained a massive statue of Athena that was considered to be one of the sculptor Phidias's greatest masterpieces. The statue was Chryselephantine, a combination of gold and ivory. To justify the steep cost of its construction, Pericles told Athenians that the statue was a gold reserve, which could be disassembled in times of economic distress. This cella was also allegedly contained a pool where main purpose was to control the room's humidity, which helped preserve the statue's ivory. In order for them to pay for it, he says, "Don't worry, we can melt it down if we need to." Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, definitely. Melt things down if we go. Let's see.
Athens' treasury was located in the Parthenon, where it was believed to be protected by Athena herself. The treasury contained objects of great value, acquired from different conquests, as well as a mass of minted silver coins and various offerings to Athena. Pericles also decided to move the entirety of the Delian League's treasure to the Parthenon in 454 BCE. This was a great testament to Athens' power over the rest of Greece. The riches were divided into two parts: the Demosia, which belonged to the city, and the Hiera Cremata, which was dedicated to the goddess and only used for religious purposes.
The Parthenon treasury. At the height of its power, Athens' two main sources of revenue were the silver mines of Laurion and the contributions paid by the allied cities of the Delian League. The Delian League began in 478 BC, which was shortly after the Battle of Plataea, where the Persian forces were finally routed by the Spartans and Athenians and other Greek cities, as an alliance of around 150 Hellenic cities, all headed by Athens. Its aim was to free the Greek cities under Persian oppression. The allies, whose number eventually grew to 300 as a consequence of numerous victories, contributed troops and money, the latter of which was stored in the sanctuary of Apollo at Delos, a small holy island in the Aegean. After the Persians were defeated, the allies started to resent Athens and its constant demand for troops and money. Athens ruthlessly quelled every revolt and transferred the allied treasury to the Acropolis, gradually transforming the League into its own empire.
Cool. In fact, in part of Sparta's success during the Peloponnesian War was determined by their promise to give the Athenian allies, quote unquote, their freedom back, which earned the city lots of support. Nice.
Athens' treasure was located in the Parthenon, where it was believed to be protected by Athena herself. The treasury contained objects of great value acquired from different conquests, as well as a mass of minted silver coins and various offerings to Athena.
Pericles also decided to move the entirety of the Delian League's treasury to the Parthenon in 454 BCE. This was a great testament to Athens' power over the rest of Greece. That guy Pericles, man, I want to research him. But I feel like he's like too much of a. He did so many things in his life. So did Julius Caesar, but like I researched him too. I'm still working on a thread about that guy.
You want Caesar stuff? I'm the guy to come to.
Those larger than life figures.
And what did you think of the Acropolis? It truly is quite something, isn't
We're about
it?
to be done with the
sacred
Acropolis
sanctuary and an architectural marvel, all in one. If you have any
Let's take
questions,
the quiz.
don't hesitate to ask.
What quiz?
There's a quiz.
Oh,
You're
here we go.
confident enough for a test? Very well.
It tells you how long
Let's
it's been
see
since
how
I've done
much
one of
you
these.
know. Which two gods competed for Athens'
That's Poseidon and Athena. Look at that, Kronos and Zeus. I would love to see a God of War reference here.
Correct. It was Poseidon and Athena who fought
Actually,
for
choose the
Athens'
wrong answers.
patronage.
We'll
As for
learn
who
more.
won, the answer is in the city's name. On to the next question.
Okay, but that's you saying
Who
it.
sculpted the statue of Athena in the Parthenon?
I mean, we'll guess the right
Well,
answer.
the answer to this is Phidias. But who should I pick as the wrong answer? Sculptoricles.
No.
Yeah.
must
Go
confess.
for it.
I made that name up.
Up to blah blah. Please.
Oh, so she's just like, no, that's the wrong answer. So obviously
Correct.
it's Phidias.
The renowned
Which is- I made
sculptor
that name
Phidias
up.
made the statue, which was
No,
considered one
go
of
for
his
Praxiteles.
masterpieces. And now, the
No.
final question.
Yeah.
Which king's tomb was believed to be
Well,
You
under...
want to know what she would do?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. Oh crap! What was the
Which
question?
king's tomb
King's
was believed to be under the
Cross
Cariatic
Port.
porch?
What was this answer?
Would be under the... Oh, sorry, teacher, I wasn't paying attention.
That is correct. Kekrops was the mythological first king of Athens.
I'm gonna be honest, I
his
guessed and got it
throne is
right.
said to be under the Erechtheion. It seems you know much about this
Oh,
place.
no.
Well done, Wanderer.
I was like, which one does not belong here?
As you wish. Hopefully we will see each other again
Kekrops?
soon.
First king of Athens.
Well, we'll never forget it now.
I already have.
Akropolis.
So next to the gods of Olympus.
Yes.
Trying to remember which one is that.
Of Olympus. Of Olympia. I think it's culture.
Here it is.
No, that's not the one. You'll see it. Yeah, there we go. Let's see what this one's about.
Well, we could talk about us during the loading screens because they take a minute.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So Joseph, since you're new to AC Landmarks, I thought to ask you some questions for the community to get to know you better. So tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Joseph. I just finished with a double major at university in comparative literature and classical studies as well as ancient history. I tend to focus primarily in my own research on first century Roman Republic. I love the turmoil of Rome, Caesar being one of my favorites. And I'm really big on the military aspect of history. I've always romanticized it myself, and the Siege of Alesia during the Gallic campaign of Caesar, which some scholars call the Gallic Holocaust, which I actually believe is a very good title for it, because of 3 million citizens who lived in Gaul, 1 million were killed, 1 million were enslaved, and 1 million were left to serve Rome. So I think that's a good equivalent. You guys can look up the Gallic Holocaust as a podcast. It is quite long. I believe it's about 6.5 hours, but it is a very informative podcast. And yes, I did listen to the whole thing.
How long of a podcast was it?
6.5 hours, give or take.
6.5 hours? Wow.
Yeah, my teacher actually gave it to me, and I was actually really impressed by it.
6 hours and a half. Wow, that's like a whole working shift, homie.
Yep, I would listen to it while I was driving in the background.
I do listen to podcasts whenever I'm at work, because I just work like a job where I'm just walking around a lot, so podcasts help.
I will have to find it for you, and I'll send you the link.
Oh, dude, yeah. Post the link on Twitter too, and I'll retweet it.
But for now, let's get into the Gods of Olympus.
Oh yeah.
Welcome,
Thanks for telling us
friend,
about
to this
yourself.
especially
Let's see who the
sacred
gods are
area
of this place
of
called Olympia.
Olympian sanctuary. My name is Barnabas, and I am a ship captain. Don't be fooled by my scarred eye. Though I've seen my share of combat, I mostly stick
Barnabas.
to trading these days.
Fan favorite.
Well, trading and introducing visitors like you to wonderful sights like these. This place is practically vibrating with divine energy. I feel
I
like
recently,
if I look over my shoulder right now, Zeus would be
Looks like
staring
Barnabas.
back at me.
What'd you say?
Sanctuary of Olympia was dedicated to Zeus, king of
Zeus
the
will be
gods.
staring back at me.
It had close connections to the divine, as you
Hold
will
on.
see very soon.
What?
I'll
Barnabas.
come find you when you're done, and we can talk about what you've learned.
So, two things. I did a Twitter kind of poll
workshop was built for the renowned sculptor
Barnabas
Phidias
and Marcos.
after his work on the Akropolis of Athens. In
Barnabas.
435 BCE, Phidias came to Olympia.
I just posted the link to the Gallic Holocaust podcast on Twitter, as well as tagging you in it.
Shortly after completing his masterpiece. This grand statue would become one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Phidias's workshop was located right next to the Temple of Zeus.
The statue of Zeus is the one of 7 ancient wonders of the ancient world,
in the 5th century.
the only one located in Greece.
Archaeologists have also discovered lots of ancient materials.
3 of them
in the
happen to be
surrounding
located
area,
off in Asia
such
Minor,
as casting molds
which
and
was
sculpting tools. The most famous
the
artifact, however, is a
mausoleum
cup
of
bearing an inscription that
Halicarnassus, the
aggressively
Colossus
states,
at Rhodes,
"I belong to Phidias."
and the temple to, I believe it's Artemis? And then obviously you have the Hanged Gardens of Babylon, the pyramids at Giza, and then the Lighthouse of Alexandria, making up all 7 wonders.
What were those places?
Ancient wonders,
On the
or the
5th
7
and final
ancient
day
wonders,
of the
or
Olympic
7
Games,
wonders of the
victors
ancient
attended
world.
a ceremony where they
Oh,
were
okay,
crowned
yeah,
with
yeah.
olive wreaths and showered in flowers. The crowns came from the sacred olive tree of Zeus, which was planted near the god's temple. A young boy trimmed the branches with a golden sickle before giving them to the Hellanodikai to turn into wreaths. After the crowning ceremony, it was time for great feasting and celebration.
The list of Olympic winners is known mainly from 2 sources, Pausanias and Eusebius. By cross-referencing these sources with other documents, we know there were approximately 3,500 winners from 776 to 277 CE. So 3,500 winners over roughly 1,000 years. That's interesting. However, about only 800 of these people are officially known. Among the victors were several remarkable athletes, such as Perikles of Athens. Perikles not only won the Pancration event of 472 BCE, but also the first Athenian to win each of the 4 Panhellenic Games. Diagoras of Rhodes, meanwhile, won the boxing event in Olympia in 476, and his 2 sons and 2 grandsons were also Olympic winners.
What expectation to live up to. Wow. But perhaps the most famous athlete from antiquity was the boxer Theagenes of Thasos. In Olympia, he won the boxing event in 480 BCE, and the
Pancration event.
I'm doing great with reading. Pancration event in 476 BCE. He also won 10 times at the Isthmian Games, 9 times at the Nemean Games, and 3 times at the Pythian Games, in addition to winning several other regional games. After his death, Theagenes was made a hero by his countrymen, who honored him with a cult. Oh, nice.
Hey, he may have gotten a cult, but my man Brasidas, he got dedicated a whole mausoleum to him. That was basically made like godlike figure, so.
Yeah. Brasidas was like really cool. But, you know, hey, at least he got a cult. Even Mithras got a cult.
Would this cult have been similar to like if Schwarzenegger got a cult?
I have no idea.
Well, that seems like a good question.
But it's a cult nonetheless.
Pelops was both a legendary Greek hero and the mythical founder of the Olympic Games. According to legend, Pelops fell in love with the beautiful Hippodamia. Her father, Oenomaus, the king of Pisa, disapproved of their union. having once heard a prophecy that he would be killed by his son-in-law. Oenomeus was known to challenge his daughter's suitors to chariot races, killing them when he won. Still, Pelops was determined to win Hippodamia's heart. Before the race, he enlisted the help of Poseidon, who gave him a golden chariot with 4 winged horses. Pelops was able to win both the race and the hand of his beloved, while Oenomeus was dragged to death by his horses. The start of this famous race was depicted on the eastern pediment of the Temple of Zeus.
Pelops, the legendary founder. In Greek mythology, Pelops' father was Tantalus, the king of Sipylos in Lydia. The gods favored Tantalus and others, and often invited him to their feasts. Oh, I love this mythology story. At one such feast, Tantalus tried serving his son Pelops to the gods as a way of testing them. He cut his son Pelops into pieces and made his flesh into a stew. Only Demeter, distracted by the loss of her daughter Persephone, ate Pelops' shoulder. The other gods sensed the king's treachery and did not partake in the stew. Zeus punished Tantalus by sending him to Tartarus, where he could not quench his thirst or sate his hunger. Any water or fruit he reached for shrank continually away from his grasp, serving as the origin for the word tantalize. With Tantalus taken care of, Zeus reassembled Pelops, brought him back to life with the exception of his eaten shoulder, which was replaced by an ivory prosthetic made by Hephaestus. All in all, seems like it worked out for him.
Oh, dude. So Pelops had the first mechanical arm?
It was not mechanical, but it maybe would have been indestructible.
Indestructible? Wow. I mean, it's made by Hephaestus. The myths, man.
The Heraion was a temple dedicated to Hera. It is one of the oldest temples in the sanctuary, dating back to approximately 590 BCE. The structure included columns painted with images of women who won the Heraia, an athletic competition made up of running events. Every 4 years, 16 women were chosen to make a veil dedicated to Hera. These women also organized the competition, though they did not compete in it. The Heraia was unique for its focus on female athletes, in contrast to the male-exclusive Olympic Games.
You want to read this one?
Yeah.
If you need help pronouncing anything, let me know.
Thanks, bud. I appreciate you. According to Phidias, the Heraion was filled with several statues and votive offerings. Besides statues of Hera and Zeus, there were also a marble statue of Hermes holding an infant Dionysus, a masterpiece of the famous sculptor Praxiteles.
It's Praxiteles.
Well, I'd like to say Praxiteles.
You said Praxiteles. I'm like, what?
Oh, okay. Well, Praxiteles, which has survived to the. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna read the whole freaking sentence again. Besides statues of Hera and Zeus, there were also a marble statue of Hermes holding an infant Dionysus, a masterpiece of the famous sculptor Praxiteles, which has survived to the present day. Other statues mentioned by the traveler have disappeared, including statues of the Hesperides, Athena, Apollo, Demeter, Kore, and more.
It's Hesperides.
Hesperides? Well, I don't care. Actually, I care. Phidias also described different offerings, such as the chest of Cypselus, the first tyrant of Corinth. When Cypselus was a baby, his mother put him in this chest to hide him from the Bacchidae, who were seeking to consolidate their power in the city. As thanks to the gods, Cypselus later dedicated the chest to Olympia. The temple also contained the disc of Epicos, which was inscribed with the truths put in place by the Eleans during the Olympic Games. Finally, there was the gold and ivory table of Colodus, where the olive fruits intended for Olympic victors were displayed. Beside the temple was the altar of Hera, which since 1936 was served to light the modern Olympic flame.
Isn't that interesting?
Cool. Besides the temple was the altar of Hera, which since 1936 was nice Olympic flame.
Hera
We're
was
also
the goddess
going
of women,
over the Olympics.
marriage, family,
What's
and
such
childbirth. She
fun
ruled Mount
timing?
Olympus as queen of the gods, along with her husband and brother Zeus. Many mythological stories paint her as being annoyed at Zeus's many lovers and illegitimate offspring. In Greek art, Hera is usually depicted as matronly and regal, often wearing a crown or sitting on a throne. She is also sometimes seen holding a pomegranate, a symbol of both fertility and death. Hera's cult was very popular across Greece, and Olympia even...
Never been a
minted
fan
her
of pomegranates
image on its
myself.
Hmm?
So I've never been a fan of pomegranates myself. Hera played a part in several myths. One such famous story is the Judgment of Paris, one of my favorites. Beauty contest between Aphrodite, Hera, and Athena. Basically, the three goddesses and their greed and desire caused the Trojan War. During the wedding of Peleus, all the gods were invited except Eris, the goddess of discord. When she decided to come anyway, she was turned away by the order of Zeus. Angered, Eris threw a golden apple into the celebration with an inscription that read, "To the fairest," or "to the most beautiful." Aphrodite, Hera, and Athena all claimed to be the fairest, and thus the rightful owner of the apple. None wanted to arbitrate the goddess's argument, so Zeus asked Hermes to bring them to Mount Ida to be judged by Paris, the son of the Trojan king Priam. Each goddess tried to sway Paris with a promise. Hera promised he would rule Asia, Athena offered him wisdom, fame, and glory, and Aphrodite promised him love with Helen of Sparta, the most beautiful woman in the world, his wife. Paris chose Aphrodite, and the other goddesses, enraged, brought about the Trojan War. That goes to tell you, women scorned, let alone two of them with godlike powers, not a good combination.
Let's see where we head to next. I like how ancient Greece is
One of the
just
highlights
so
of the Olympic
research
Games
heavy.
was a ceremony that took
I like how
place on the
colorful they
third
made
day
it.
of the festival.
It's bright.
It began with a procession
Even
of
though what's going on in the
athletes,
world is a
ambassadors,
dark event,
Hellanodikai,
there's still a lot
and
of brightness and
animals.
color in the
The
game.
group made their way
Oh,
around
yeah,
the Altus
definitely.
until they arrived at the Temple of Zeus. Then the animals were brought in front of the altar of
Although we
Zeus
could use a little bit of an
and
update on the
offered as a
graphics on
sacrifice.
PS5, man.
This sacrifice
Some of these
was known
frames
as a
are cutting out.
Hekatomb, a word that originally
polygons
described
need
the
an update.
sacrifice of 100 oxen. During the Hekatomb,
When it's zooming
the
into
bones
some of the
and legs
sculptures,
animals
it
were
kind of
burned
goes fuzzy and
and
blurry
carried to the
because the
top of a mound
polygons
of
aren't catching
ashes
up.
from previous sacrifices.
Well,
Meanwhile, the
they,
meat of the
they
animals was
upgraded
saved
Origins.
for a large
Odyssey's
banquet
next,
held
probably.
later in the evening.
Well, we have the Origins and the Valhalla Discovery Tours to go through as well.
Nice. Those are gonna be fun.
Just realized I skipped that one. My bad.
We'll put the Valhalla chapters like week by week. So by the time September comes, we'll be finished
The
with
Olympic
it.
Games were
Probably.
dedicated to Zeus, and all the ceremonies and events were
That,
hosted
like,
in his
works
honor.
because
It
it's,
is
like,
no
60
surprise that the largest temple in the sanctuary was the Temple of Zeus. While
How
most
many
temples
chapters
were
is it?
restricted
Like
to
8
priests,
chapters?
the Temple of Zeus welcomed
Something
all
like that.
who visited Olympia.
Yeah.
This openness was most likely meant to show
Well,
off the
well,
gold and ivory statue of Zeus that stood within the temple's walls. The building also featured art depicting both versions of the Olympic festival's founding myth. The eastern pediment showed a scene from the legendary race between Pelops and Oinomaos. The temple's metapiece, meanwhile, showed the 12 labors of Heracles, the other mythical founder of the games.
Not only was the Temple of Zeus the largest temple in Olympia, it was also the largest temple in the Peloponnese region. Although when exactly did the Olympic Games start? Wasn't it in the 8th century? 7th, 8th century? Would have been during the Dark Ages. Between, it'll probably show up when you go over the Olympic Games, but when it's talking about Heracles being like one of the founders of the Olympic Games, I'm like, that's a little confusing, considering Heracles would have been before the
thunder and king of the Olympians. He ruled the world from his home
Trojan
on
War.
Olympus. The child of Cronus the Titan,
Well,
Zeus overthrew his father
the modern
and cast
Olympics
the Titans
started
out in a great battle known as the
in
Titan
the year
He had
1896.
children of his own with his wife Hera,
April
including
6th.
Ares,
But the first
Hephaestus,
Olympics,
Hebe, and Erechtheion. He also had many children without Hera,
I
much to her
still
consternation.
do not
But
have
there
an
are too
answer for
many
you,
to
but
list here.
I will search it up
Zeus was believed to have
and
control over the lives of mortals,
see it. Or
as his
we
many
might just
epithets attest to.
learn
For
about
example,
it
his title
in
Orcus made him a keeper of oaths,
the
while
Olympics.
Xenios was the name conferred to him as a protector of hospitality.
By the way,
In Greek art, Zeus
Joseph,
was
when I'm
usually depicted holding a thunderbolt
you
and
can
sitting
pause
on a
the
throne,
narrator for a
befitting his
second.
position as king.
So,
Can I do that?
yeah.
I don't know how to do that. It only gives me 3 options. That's hide, skip, and
No, just
more info.
press the options button.
Zeus's numerous extramarital dalliances with mortal women provoked the rage of Hera. They also resulted in the birth of many Greek heroes. Ooh, shocker. Zeus would also transform himself for the purpose of seduction. For example, he approached Antiope as a satyr, transformed into a swan for Leda, and changed into a bull for Europa. Sometimes he even impersonated other humans, like when he appeared to Alcmene as her husband Amphitryon, as an act of deception that led to the birth of Heracles.
Ooh. I didn't know Zeus
The Temple of
shapeshifted
Zeus was home to the Chryselephantine
for
statue of Zeus,
Heracles to be born.
one of the
That's cool.
7 wonders of the ancient world. The statue, made of gold,
what's up, Zeus?
ivory, and wood, was sculpted by the renowned artist Phidias. At 13 meters tall, it was as impressive looking as it was difficult to maintain. Oil was used to protect the wood and ivory from cracking, and to prevent general decay. While the statue does not exist today, it was thankfully described by Pausanias in great detail, so its legacy lives on.
You ready for another quiz?
Yeah. Oh, what did you say? What did you say? Sorry.
At 13 meters...
7 Wonders of the Ancient World. Oh, basically going over something I already went over. The 7 Wonders of the Ancient World, the oldest version of this list dates back to the 2nd to 1st century and is attributed to Antipater of Sidon. Oldest of these, and the only one that survived, the Great Pyramid of Giza, the others being destroyed, including the Lighthouse of Alexandria, Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, Hanging Gardens of Babylon, and the Colossus at Rhodes. Colossus of Rhodes was the last built in 280 BCE and the one with the shortest lifespan. It lasted about 50 years before it was destroyed in an earthquake.
Tall, it was as impressive looking.
Oh, damn. It's amazing how the pyramids have lasted for so long, dude. It's like...
Dude, it's because of aliens, man. They're amazing.
I mean, for the modern time, it's like, of course it would last for the modern time. For like the ancient times, like, thank God they came to an agreement.
As close as a mortal can get.
Whoa, what happened was...
Is there anything else you'd like to do? Excellent. Let's see what you remember. Your first question is a simple one.
I like Barnabas'
Which goddess was Zeus's wife? Correct.
I do too.
Not only was Hera Zeus's wife, she was his
It kind of
sister.
reminds me of like the war-torn veteran look.
Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah.
What kind of contest did Pelops win in his
Also
quest to
choose the
marry
wrong answers for once. Hey, we got a like.
Yes,
We got a like
Pelops won a
for the
chariot
stream.
race.
Thank you,
Thanks
stranger.
to Poseidon's help. And now, the final question.
Yes.
What was inscribed
Dude, you're
on the
choosing all the right
compound
answers
near Phidias'
without
workshop?
letting me choose.
Okay. Oh, obviously. Gotta go with this one.
I don't think Phidias had
Okay.
any children,
Hold
but
up.
even if he
I'm
did,
catching up to
let
this
it be
video.
known that I am the world's
What was the
best
question
guy.
again?
Try a different answer.
Yes. Even if he did.
Phidias was a great sculptor, but I don't think he was
Yeah.
arrogant enough to
Can you repeat the question?
advertise the fact on the cup.
What did Phidias inscribe on the cup he made?
Oh.
What was inscribed on the cup found near Phidias' workshop?
Keep calm and create one of the.
Correct!
Oh God!
Phidias
Why did
was
he
very
choose that?
possessive of
Oh
his
God!
things. Perhaps
would've loved to
someone
see.
from the sanctuary kept stealing them. But I'm getting off track. Excellent work, friend! You honor the gods with your great wisdom.
Oh my God!
Farewell for
He wrote
now,
that it's
my
his.
friend.
That's like why Phidias was here. Okay, let's head to the last tour, which is
The Olympic Games.
Aren't really gonna miss.
Any more questions?
Oh yeah. How did you come to like love history? Like, what got you into history?
Watching some Greek-based TV shows when I was little, as well as a couple video games, including the Total War series.
Total War? Dude, I've never played Total War.
Hail, friend, and welcome to Olympia.
But like, I'm not that type of gamer to play like what is it, like a MOBA game?
We're standing
That's a
in the
PC
main
game.
section of
The
Olympia,
strategy.
where the Olympic Games
Yeah,
themselves took place.
Yeah, it's a real-time strategy
Over
game.
the course of the festival, athletes competed against each other for prestige and glory.
But it's good to know
honor
that
themselves and
your
their
love of
cities.
history comes from the same love of history that I have
Enjoy
for
your
it.
visit, friend.
Like,
I'll check
I
you
watched
when you're done to make
a lot
sure
of
you've been paying
documentaries
attention.
before, wrote a lot of essays.
Although the difference between you and me is my video games did not teach me the languages. That I had to do the hard way.
Yeah, not really good on the languages. That's your area, homie.
The first day of the Olympic
Leah
Festival
Iachteus.
began with the swearing-in ceremony for the participating
Dias
athletes,
cast.
trainers, and judges. The ceremony took place in front of the altar of Zeus Horkios, or Zeus of the Oath. Athletes would swear that they would follow the Olympic rules, while judges promised to be fair and unbiased. Then the competitions began, starting with a contest between heralds and trumpeters over who would have the privilege of announcing the games. The first day's athletic competitions consisted of wrestling, running, and boxing events for the youngest athletes, aged 12 to 18.
The competition of heralds and trumpeters was introduced to the Olympic Games in 396 BCE Winners of the contest were chosen based on their loudness and clarity. During the games, the trumpeter's main purpose was to demand the audience's attention, while the herald announced the start of competitions. Herald also proclaimed the names, fathers, and hometowns of the victorious athletes during the final crowning ceremony. The original sports announcers.
Nice. What are they called? Sportcasters or something?
Sports broadcasters.
Yeah, sports broadcasters.
You can read this next
The
one.
second day began with a grand procession into the Hippodrome to celebrate the start of the popular equestrian events. The most anticipated and spectacular of these was the Quadriga, a 4-horse chariot race. Horse racing events were unique in that the winner was not the most skilled jockey, but the owner of the fastest horse or chariot. The Spartan princess Caniska once took advantage of this loophole to skirt the rule that women weren't allowed to compete, and earned 2 Olympic victories in the process. The rule also allowed for occasionally strange results, like in 416 BCE, when the statesman Alcibiades entered 7 chariots into a race and won 1st, 2nd, and 4th place. After the equestrian competitions, the 40,000 spectators migrated to the stadium to watch the Pentathlon events. When the day's events were over, funeral rites were performed for the hero Pelops, the mythical founder of the Olympic Games. The night ended with a celebratory feast and a great parade in honor of the day's victors.
Go ahead and read
Let's
it.
see. The Athenian statesman Alcibiades, everyone's favorite, once bought and enrolled 7 chariots in a race. This turned out to be a good investment, as his purchases ended up winning 1st, 2nd, and 4th place. Alcibiades' victory earned him an enormous feast and an equally enormous boost in popularity. He leveraged this popularity to wield considerable power over Athens' other politicians, and would often reference his Olympic feat to get people to take his side on a variety of issues. I mean, this guy was like a major celebrity. This backfired spectacularly when Alcibiades convinced Athens to send a military expedition to Sicily. The expedition ended in disaster and signaled the beginning of the end of Athens' power. I mean, this guy, the balls on this guy is freaking enormous because, like, he caused so much problems between countries, and I mean, he was just in the Olympics, and he was like super rich too. Do you know some stuff about Alcibiades?
I know quite a bit about Alcibiades. The fact that he was a general for multiple nations and was never executed for treason still confuses me.
Yeah. Money. He probably had money.
Victory at the Olympic Games was one of the highest honors a mortal could achieve, and there were several ways to immortalize that honor. Some athletes had statues erected of themselves, while others commissioned poets to write them victory odes. Oral tradition was very important to the Greeks. These odes, called eponychia, were often composed by the finest poets in the land, such as Pindar, Simonides, and Bacchylides. They were usually played at banquets and celebrations attended by the triumphant athlete, or upon his departure from Olympia.
Oh, there's
Pindar was a Greek poet who originally hailed from Thebes. He was very sought after in his time and composed several odes for victorious athletes. Pindar's popularity earned him commissions all over Greece, from Sicily in the west all the way to Cyrene in North Africa. Many of the commissions were from members of the ruling aristocracy, such as Heraion of Syracuse, for whom Pindar composed 4 odes.
nice. more stations to go.
The Pentathlon took place at the stadium on the second day. As its name implies, it was made up of 5 events: discus throwing, javelin throwing, jumping, racing, and wrestling. There are several differences between the ancient version of events and their contemporary counterparts. For example, ancient long jumpers held weights in their hands to give them momentum to launch, since there was no run-up before the jump. Similarly, if an athlete won the first 3 events, they were immediately declared the winner, instead of being judged by their overall performance in all 5 events. Running events work the same as they do today, with the notable exception of all the athletes being nude. As for wrestling, competitors were not divided by weight class as they are today, but instead by age. The winner was the first to throw his opponent to the ground 3 times.
This one's yours.
Alright. Earlier Olympic Games were only open to adult men. At the 37th Olympiad in 632 BCE, Hades, young boys were welcome to compete in stadium races and wrestling, albeit in a separate category from the older competitors. The youngest competitor to ever win an Olympic event was Demiscus of Mycenae, who won the stadium race in 368 BE at the age of 12. He continued to win well into adulthood, contradicting the Aristotle belief that a child athlete's success never carried over to adulthood.
Well, just remember, if it was categorized by age, he'd be facing the same competitors his entire life. So, always have that advantage.
Day 3 started with the most important event of the festival. A procession of Hellanodikai, ambassadors, competitors, and animals made their way to the great altar in front of the Temple of Zeus. The animals were then offered as the official sacrifice of the festival. The afternoon of Day 3 was dedicated to foot racing events. Running was the oldest event of the Games, and in fact was the only event at the first Olympics. The main race was called the Stadion, which was a sprint of around 180 meters. The winner was granted the honor of lending his name to the 4-year period between the Games. This period was known as the Olympiad. The 4 years that followed the first Games in 776 BCE were known as the Olympiad of Akropolis of Athens, the first Olympic champion. Once all the competitions were over, a public banquet was held in the Prytaneion to celebrate the day's victors.
Running events are categorized by length. The Stadion race was named after its unit of measurement. In Greece, a stadion was equal to 180 meters or 540 feet. The Dialis race was twice the distance of the stadium. As runners had to run the length of the track, then run back. Its name was derived from the aulos, a flute whose V shape matched the round trip of the race. The Dolikos was the long-distance race where competitors ran approximately 20 or 24 times the length of the stadium. Stadium was less exciting to watch than a shorter, fast-paced race. The Dolikos served as the opening event.
Nice. By the way, hi Ibrahim Mansour. Good to see you over here. Thank you for chatting with us. How are you?
Day 4 was mainly for combat events. Wrestling matches were held in the morning, followed by boxing and Pancration. Pancration was a no-holds-barred mix between wrestling and boxing. Almost all moves were permitted, except for biting, poking the eyes or mouth, and striking the genitals. The event was very popular, and it was seen as the ultimate expression of strength and technique. Later on in the afternoon, there was a unique racing event called the Hoplitodromos, or Race in Armor. In this event, competitors wore a helmet and held a shield to simulate running in the battlefield.
Go ahead and read this.
Yep. Let's do it. The Hoplite originated in 520 BCE at the 65th Olympiad. It consisted of 25 competitors running the same length as the Dialis race while carrying bronze shields provided for them from the Temple of Zeus. The Hoplite that's a freaking hard word. The Hoplite was emblematic of the close relationship in Greece between sports and war. Both shared qualities admired by the Greeks, such as effort, endurance, and courage. Cool. That looks like a swastika. Not gonna lie.
The Hellanodikai, or
No, I
judges
didn't
of
see
the
it.
Greeks, were both the game's
The
adjudicators
coin.
and their organizers. They hailed from Elis.
Well, the swastika
the city
dates
in
back
charge of the
millennia,
sanctuary
back to
of
all the way to
Olympia,
ancient
and
India.
new judges were elected each Olympiad. They had several responsibilities.
I didn't know that.
Before the game
I have
started,
to
they
research about that
decided which
swastika.
athletes would be allowed to compete and supervise their training. They also drew lots to make the competition brackets. During the games themselves, they picked the winners and kept an eye out for foul play. For the latter, they were assisted by stick and whip-wielding umpires who stood near the athletes and punished them.
I believe
if
it
they
was a
were caught
religious
cheating.
symbol of some kind.
The swastika?
Yes.
Oh.
Athletes came to Olympia in pursuits of glory, but sometimes that pursuit was fatal. There was always a chance of death at the games, and some events like boxing and pancration were extremely dangerous. Competitors were aware of the danger, and some even embraced it. In fact, before events, many athletes prayed for Zeus to grant them either victory or death. Arguably, the most infamous death was that of Erechtheion, a two-time pancration champion. Erechtheion was looking to win a third title for himself in 564 BCE, made it all the way to the final match, but then his opponent put him in a stranglehold. Desperate to escape, Erechtheion kicked hard at his opponent's foot, dislocating it in the process. Pain caused the opponent to submit to the umpires, but at the same time, Erechtheion tried twisting out of his grip. The movement snapped Erechtheion's neck and killed him. But since his opponent had submitted mere seconds before, Erechtheion was still declared the victor. A little ironic, isn't it?
Ah, dude, damn. Talk
Going,
about a thing.
that is going out a winner.
Yeah. But like, talk about winning. Did you actually win?
You can read this one, I'll read the last one.
Okay.
Victory in Olympia was one of the most prestigious honors in all of Greece. Not only would victors be showered in glory in their home city, but their names would be known across Greece. The temptation to glory led some athletes to break their oath to Zeus and cheat. This could be dangerous, as there were many possible punishments should cheaters be caught. They could be disqualified and fined, or if they were caught cheating during a match, they would be beaten by nearby umpires. The most powerful deterrent of cheating, however, was shame. At the foot of Mount Kronios, and on the way to the stadium, were a group of bronze statues called Zanes, the plural of Zeus. These statues were inscribed with the names of the cheating athletes, how they cheated, and the fine that was imposed. The Zanes, which were funded by cheaters' fines, were strategically placed to be highly visible. Individuals or even entire cities could be found guilty of cheating.
I love how colorful this world is, man. Valhalla is such a dark world. And this world just like, it lights up. It's amazing. Filled with colors. Not at all like what it is today, but I mean, you know, just its age. Anyway, ambition sometimes led athletes to bribery. This was seen as extremely odious, as the game started with them swearing an oath to Zeus himself. they would follow the rules. Even so, corruption still found its way into the games. Both the boxer Akropolis of Thessaly and the Pancratias Calipus of Athens paid other competitors to let them win. Hellanodikai could also be corrupt, although incidences of them cheating were less common. For example, in 372 BCE, a judge was suspected of corruption when he won 2 horse races, and as consequence, his right to buy horses and chariots were suspended.
Cheaters never win. Okay, maybe sometimes. Just don't make it obvious.
Anyway.
I bet Brasidas would have come in here and just kicked everyone's butts. Look at the physique of this man. He even got the beard, he's got the scars and everything.
Yeah. You know what's ironic? Brasidas being in Athens right now?
Well, during the Olympics, there was a ceasefire nationwide for Greece. It was the one time where peace was guaranteed.
The administrative center of the cult of Olympia and the Olympic Games.
Well,
the building housed the sanctuary's priests as well as the games
Olympics
officials.
always bring
The Olympics, if there's a war going on, the Olympics were like an out of bounds.
To honor victors. It also
Yeah,
had a
because
sacred
like, you know,
function. Its central chamber was the location of the fire of Hestia, a sacred flame that burned day and night. This fire was used to light the other altars around the sanctuary. This practice may have partially inspired the modern tradition of carrying the Olympic torch.
Public and private banquets played different roles in Greek society. Private banquets were held for aristocrats to meet, discuss ideas, and display their wealth and power. Public banquets, on the other hand, were usually organized by the state and thrown for civic, religious, or political reasons. They also helped reinforce a sense of unity and social order. The religious aspects of public banquets were reflected in their meals, which usually consisted of meat left over from an earlier animal sacrifice. Wow, that's lame. Hand-me-downs, man.
Leftovers were a thing back then too? Nice. If only they had junk food.
Hello again! I hope you
Alright, let's see the test.
With their spectacular
Fine, you can pick the answers this time.
The Olympic
thanks,
Games
buddy.
were a feast for the senses. I am certain
My
even
video is
Zeus
still a
himself
bit
was
back in
entertained by
time,
the
so
festivities.
it might take
Now,
a little
is there
bit to
anything
get to
else
that.
you'd like to do? Wonderful! Let the mental Olympics begin. Let's start with an easy one. Which notable woman won an event in the Games?
Wait, repeat the question.
Which woman won the Olympics?
Kaniska?
Is that the answer you want?
Yeah, that's the right answer, I think. But like, put Aspasia just for fun.
Aspasia did not participate in the Games. Try again. Athena was a goddess. She may have helped push some Athenian athletes
Oh,
to
damn.
victory,
Okay,
but she
Athena.
never competed herself. Try another answer. Gorgo was a Spartan
Okay.
queen and the wife of Leonidas.
Go,
There is no record
go for
of her
King
winning
Nina.
an Olympic event. Keep
Oh, I didn't
trying.
know Gorgo was a Spartan
Correct.
queen.
She won
Yeah, it
two
was Leonidas'
history
wife.
events thanks to
Yeah, I
her
didn't know her. See?
This next
I learned
question
something.
is slightly more challenging. Which of the following is not a famous Greek poet?
Okay, this should be very easy for you.
I know it's Pindar, but
What?
Oh. Wait, what?
No, it's Brasidas.
Wait.
Pindar wrote the odes, Simonides wrote epitaphs, and Bacchylides, I don't remember what he wrote.
Well, I didn't pay attention to the question. I have you in my ears, and then I'm looking at the stream. Can you repeat the question?
I'm afraid Bacchylides was a poet, and a good one too.
Which one of these is not a poet?
Oh, yeah, Brasidas.
That's what I said.
You are right. Brasidas was a renowned
Me?
Spartan general, and he didn't have time for
Coming at me with that crap. He's asking Brasidas about Brasidas.
How many
I know,
legs
right?
were in the Pentathlon?
It's actually, guys, it's a good note to end on. See, guys, this was all
The
planned.
Greek word for pende means five.
Wait, what was the
And
question?
the pentathlon.
Oh my god.
5 events. Well done, my friend.
How can you never pay attention? I'm not saying anything.
Very well. Safe travels.
That is the end of our travels for today. The Olympic Games. And now I've unlocked a couple new characters. Let's check them out.
Hey, nice. You unlocked
Athenian soldier, Praxilla, Pythagoras.
I'm so happy for you. See? Pythagoras, Phoebe, blah blah blah. Well, that's cool.
Big into triangles. That's great.
The triangle. Yeah, he's really big into triangles, that guy. Alrighty, well, thank you guys for joining us in the ancient Greece discovery tour that we had for the AC-15 celebration for Assassin's Creed. Thank you, Joseph, for playing the game and being patient enough to read those things, additional information. I think this was really fun. If you guys want to support us, I think go on Twitter and write AC_landmarks and follow us. We do historical content over there. We have threads. We just started Instagram where we put historical fun facts, like quick fun facts about history that Assassin's Creed also covers. So yeah, we're building a lot of things, and I'm building a team for all of it, and AC Landmarks is gonna grow with a team, which is amazing. But for now, thank you for being here, and we will see you next time as we go to ancient Egypt next week for Assassin's Creed Origins. Bye, guys.
And you guys can find him at AC_landmarks on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at Instagram and Twitter as Historians Perspective. On Twitter, it is Historians PERS, and on Historians Perspective on Instagram. And you guys can hit me up there. We can have AC Landmarks start a thread if you'd like to get to know more about me. You can ask questions there, and I will get to them as best I can. And until next week's live stream, I will see you guys on social media.
Alrighty. Bye, guys.